First, the debate session will be conducted involving two teams, the proposition team, government, and the opposition team. With 4 speakers each. The first speaker is the leader of the team. The second speaker is the deputy leader of the team. The third speaker is the proposition or opposition. The fourth speaker is the proposition or opposition reply. During the competition, a debating topic will be given by the chairperson from the range of topics given. The stand of the team to be proposition or opposition will be determined by the chairperson simultaneously. Each team is given 10 minutes for discussion phase. Each speaker is given 5 minutes for presentation phase. A single ring to signal the half time for both discussion and presentation phase. 2 rings during the last 30 seconds for both discussion and presentation phase. 3 rings to signal time up for both discussion and presentation phase. The speakers can utilize any form of information searching device such as mobile phones, articles, books, etc. to find information regarding the topic of the debate. The debater can ask for clarification or definition of the words in the topic given. Throughout the competition, point of interest or information, which known as POI, are short interjections in the form of questions that can be asked by the speakers. To interject, one must raise their hand or manifest any polite gesture before offering a question to be of POI to his or her opponent. If the opponent allows the interjection, the speaker can start presenting his POI immediately. The POI is usually 15 seconds long or about 2 sentences. The speaker should respond to the question. The speaker can reject the interjection by saying no, thank you, or not at this time, or any other form of POI must be not open. POIs must not be open-ended or lead the argument of topic. There are no limits to the amount of POI to offer. Debaters must wear appropriate and presentable outfit throughout the competition. Debaters must use proper greeting and use proper grammar during the presentation. No foul exchange or language is allowed during the argument or presentation. The competition will be recorded as well as uploaded on Generic 4 Kersihe YouTube channel to be evaluated by the panel of judges. Now, let me introduce and determine the stand of speakers from both teams. The government or proposition team will be Sumpit Mestika. The first speaker is Felix Othniel Anak Frank. The second speaker is Zoshir Giat Zain. The third speaker is Mufid Ilham bin Adnan. The fourth speaker is Nurul Farah Ain binti Abdul Razak. The opposition team will be Rentaka Halimunan. The first speaker is Nur Atira binti Azman. The second speaker is Nicholas Amos Michael. The third speaker is Samuel Nulai Anak Sawa. The fourth speaker is Muhammad Zul Izam bin Jainuddin. I, Hana Blasanova Anak Gimbun, will be the chairperson. Muhammad Hazim Safi bin Maslan will be the timekeeper, and Nurul Shafika Akasha binti Sahad will be the meeting host. The debating topic is academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished. The debating topic is academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished. Do you guys get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you please repeat it one last time?
Okay. The debating topic is academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the speakers are given 1 minute to ask for clarification or definition of the words in the topic given.
Can we have clarification on the word tracking?
Which one? Tracking?
Yes.
Okay, wait a minute. Speakers from both teams, are you ready? 10 minutes discussion phase starts now. Samanulai. Tracking means one mean like separate students based on their academic results, like science stream and art stream. Do you understand?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Time's out. Without further ado, may I invite the first speaker from the government, Felix Othniel, anak Frank, to present his speech.
So, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yes.
So I would like to start off with good day to all the members of the government and the members of the opposition, the chairperson and the honorable timekeeper. And for today in this virtual room, we are be given the topic that this house believes that academic tracking in primary school and secondary school should be abolished. Before moving toward my argument, and I believe that we need to know more about the definition behind this topic. So going on one by one, the academic tracking means a way of the school or any education site where they will divide students based on their academic capability or their academic reach. And then we'll talk about primary school and secondary school, in which this is where the teenagers and the child, which are still growing, yet to know more, and they are still immature about the certain important knowledge. So this is the place where they will learn this general knowledge and morals. So moving toward our belief that the government believe that academic tracking in primary school and secondary school should be abolished, and we are 100% agree, because the academic tracking will put a will create a stigma to the people, which is in the society, not only the society but also in the school, in which students are divided into two types, in which they have a high reach, which is the high tier student, and then the low reach, which is the low tier student. They are divided in the way that this student is claimed to have more in our society, in our lifestyle. We have been exposed with results in which this will be the dividing factor for which student will be a high tier or a lower tier. We believe that this system should be abolished because it will put a negative impression to the student, and the student as well will provide will create this impersonal personality, in which it will be very impactful to the adult. How does this happen? It is because school had already implemented this system for a long time, in which they divide the student so that they supposedly can provide teacher to teach them all the general knowledge. But sadly, in our society nowadays, we have seen that teacher had been neglecting the low tier student because they are deemed unworthy. And this is the reason why government team believe that it is a must for academic tracking to be abolished, so that student can be provided with a right to choose where the academic path will take. So in my belief, I will move on to should I say the agreement now? Okay. Which is my argument. The student should be given right to education. Why does student need to be given right to education? You might think student of the high tier can be a doctor, and the society always going to think low tier student will not have a chance at all to get a higher occupants in their adulthood. But 2020 is different. We can see that even someone with no specific knowledge, as in having enough study in the university, we know that this student will have greater capability based on their talent. some students are more worthy on choosing to become an athlete, and some students might be a better artist than the top tier student. So this is the reason why I believe that by demolishing the academic tracking, the student from the low tier can actually choose what they wanted to without having peer pressure to be hit upon them, in which it could reduce the depression. Right. And that is all for my point. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Felix, for your speech. Now, I would like to call upon the leader of the opposition team, Nur Atira binti Asman, to present her speech.
Thank you, Chairperson. Although the idea of an academic institution without academic tracking in primary and secondary schools sounds interesting, the propositions today are being more idealistic rather than realistic, and that is a recipe for a downfall of a nation. But before I go on, a very good evening. I bid to the honorable adjudicators, accurate timekeeper, my worthy side of proposition, loyal teammates from the opposition, and members of the floor. Our opposition side is very simple and clear. Upon the motion that this House believes that academic tracking should be abolished, we stand with it should not be abolished. In other words, we are maintaining status quo. Members of the floor, as the opposition leader today, my job is very simple and clear. I will talk about by having academic tracking, it will protect children of higher ability from the possibility of being held back by those of lower ability. My deputy opposition leader will rebut every matter that is brought forth by the deputy prime minister and introduce another point that would reaffirm the foundation of our opposition side, which is academic tracking creates a better suited personalized education for each student. Our third speaker on the opposition side shall not deliver any new points but rebut all of the points that is brought forth by the side of proposition and again reaffirm our side for today. Finally, the fourth speaker of our team will give a reply speech to summarize on the whole debate, thus securing our win in today's debate. Members of the floor, why did I say that the proposition side is leading our nation to a downfall with their agenda of abolishing academic tracking? This is because by having this academic tracking, we are not differentiating nor we are segregating them like how the proposition side is blatantly coming up with an assumption of what us, the opposition, is standing for. We are simply giving and creating a steady atmosphere for the students of the different abilities to study more efficiently, which comes back to my point of protecting children of higher ability from the possibility of being held back by those of lower ability.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can I have a BI?
Yeah, go on.
So you're basically saying that smart students should be in one class and less smart students should be in another class. Is that true?
But yeah, that's what I'm basically saying. But I'm on and further, how to say this, further explain what I am going about to say. So stay tuned. All right, moving on with what I am about to say. As much as some of us are in denial that the students don't have that students are all equal, we cannot deny the fact that not all people are born with the same academic capabilities, which is why academic tracking will benefit for both sides, the higher upper and the higher upper and the lower ones. By maintaining this academic tracking system, the strengths and weakness of the students can be recognized and be improved. To further strengthen my point, I'll give you a visualization as to why it should be kept rather than abolished, and thus highlighting the proposition's weakness. Imagine in a class where students of different academic capabilities are in it. All right, what would happen? Surely the event of the lower academic capability students being overshadowed by the higher one will occur. Imagine in a daily basis in class, you are being overshadowed every day. This would surely suck the fun out of the learning process. Some, they can derive their own spirits by their own, but some, they get the spirits by the surroundings. So by doing this, by they are being overshadowed every day, this will tarnish their hopes, their spirits to learn every day. Because what is the use of them going to school, going to class, if they have no fun in it? They are not given the chance to answer the questions from the teachers or just to genuinely get the knowledge from the teachers. What would this be? What would the effects be? They would be depressed. Why do I say this? By being overshadowed every day, like I said, they do not have the drive, so they will have weaker performance academically. Thank you.
Thank you, Nur Artira. Next, I would like to invite the second speaker of the government, Zoshik Giak Zain, to deliver his speech.
Greetings to the honored judges, timekeeper, the members of the house, my fellow opponents, and my humble government sides. Today we will be talking about student academic tracking academic tracking in primary and secondary schools should be abolished. We as the government team strongly agree that we should abolish this system, whereby we separating the the students with a lot of capability and also the low capability. This is because having the having the power having people levels being differentiated is actually something that should not be promoted, because having a gap in society is something that you should not tolerate. As having the boundaries between a higher class and a lower class will create stigmas between the impression whereby people with higher class are supposed to will 100% succeed, whereby people with lower class and the one are fated to be unsuccessful, as stated in the opposition's first speaker's point, is that whereby in the status whereby people are overwhelming, people are overshadowed by higher level of intelligence people. This does not happen. This does not this does not change a fact that whereby having people who are low intelligence are people, doesn't mean that you are 100% going to have depression, because that is super duper extreme. Because having just because you are in a class whereby everybody is smart doesn't mean you are 100% become the the joker in the class. Just because having people surrounded by people who are smart, who are dedicated, will actually make people more wanting to be wanting to learn more and also to be the same as their peer. That is why peer pressure is something that is very real. Then going on to my my government's argument, which is having academic tracking will actually harm the development of students, especially people from primary school and secondary school. This is because people from in that age gap is people who are just starting to learn and to understand their surroundings. Just because just because they are someone who doesn't really understand something doesn't mean you need to segregate them into a lower class just because they are unable to answer a certain question or exams. Because people are based ABCs from grades, and also the schools will also does not actually check fully what you have been doing. They just see your performance and also what is your result. Just because someone does not able to achieve in their academic day one doesn't mean that they are 100% failure. So having academic tracking will actually infringe the rights for people to choose their education, because education is for everyone. Doesn't just because you are not that smart than other people doesn't mean that you are not supposed to have the same education as the top class as you wanted it to be as in the status quo. Also, having this the gap between a high class and a lower class will actually makes the teachers more likely to pick will more likely to go for students with high class, because they think it's more profitable or more something investable to be the one, rather than helping the people who are in real need of education, which is the lower class. And also, students with high class are actually receiving extra attention and extra care, because it is something that. Okay. To conclude, we as the government side strongly agree that academic tracking should be abolished. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoshadia. Then, may I call upon the second speaker from the opposition team, Nicholas Amos Michael, to present his speech.
As we all know, academic tracking has been a long sought of type of education which has been implemented for a very long time. And through countless times, it has been proven to be one of the most effective ways of regulating the production of students, the production of successful students. Without further ado, I would like to introduce myself. Salutations, I bid to the wise and just educators. I, Nicholas Amos, the deputy leader of the opposition team, will be scrutinizing the points given by the government. So let me remind everyone once again that we of the opposition team stand firm with our denial that academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished. We do not agree with the government's claims. So the second speaker of the government team has said that the implementation of the academic tracking in the education system has created a gap in society. This is not, in fact, this, however, is true, but this is due to the fact that the students themselves, amongst themselves, create this kind of gap in order to suit their personal interests. They would like to be with their own, so to say. But this is actually not the case if proper guidance is implemented into this education system. Guidance provided by guidance counselors. This is why academic tracking can be further implemented into the education system, as the presence of guidance counselors will be able to mend this distance between the so-called upper classes and lower classes. So as for the first speaker of the government team, he also has said that this gap is creating peer pressure, social anxiety. Well, let me reaffirm by saying that that's the reason why they are guidance counselors. They are people, professionals, to actually guide these students into not believing into such claims created by those amongst themselves. So,
Excuse me, sir. Can I have
yes,
one question?
Sure, go
if
on.
If guidance counselor is so effective, why are the stigma of bottom class and top class students still very much happen in status quo?
Well, this is due to how society is built upon, and it is a timely process. I'm sorry. That is all I can say for now. So, for my first argument, the implementation of an academic tracking system into the education system will create a better suited personalized education for each student. What I mean by this is that it enables students to receive info or instructions which are specified of abilities. Other than that, it also prevents them from feeling brought down, social anxiety, the peer pressure they feel, because of the achievements they get. Oh, sorry, the connection. Um, Moving on, I would like to propose an example of how this personalized education will benefit such students. So an example is if a student is gifted with extraordinary mathematical capabilities, uh, through this personalized education, they will be able to be fitted with better, more advanced maths classes, which will further improve, sharpen their skills in math. And let's just say this does not have the best English capabilities. Well, they can be fitted into a more suited English class for the lower capability level. That is all. To conclude, we, the opposition, strongly believe that the academic tracking in primary and secondary school should not be abolished. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas Amos. Now let's welcome the third speaker from the government, Mufid Ilham bin Adnan, to deliver his speech.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, sure. From the side of government, the first speaker came out here and she told you about how we are being idealistic. But from first speaker of government, she came here and told you about how everyone should be separated. Top class students should stay top class students, bottom class students should hang around bottom class students. That is number one, very elitist. And secondly, coming from side of government, their second speaker came out here and told you that it is a long-standing policy, it works, don't change it, which is very much conservative under their side. So let me start by giving out rebuttals. But before that, good evening to everyone in this house. So firstly, we're going to clarify one by one what were the points coming from side of government. Number one, they told you on how if you were to combine low class students with high or low performing students with high performing students, these low performing students will then be overshadowed. Thus, it will create a situation where they will feel discouraged to learn. Understand that the idea coming from side of government is that these students will then have no hope at all. Number one, and they will just have depression. It's a very extreme case that these students become depressed, but we tell you that number one, no, it's an extreme, and number two, even if it happens more on the their side because you just bunch all of these students into one class and call them stupid and don't want them to interact with these higher class students. And listen, that and understand that on our side, when we combine and when we have this form of interaction between high class and low class students, there will be a form of high class high performing students teaching these low class students in order for them to help them catch up with other people. It is a very much important thing, and it is very much effective because there have already been studies by example, a famous researcher Aloysius Wei Lun Ko, where there is an effect of protege effect, which teaching students or teaching other people help you understand your education more in that sense. Understand that this will only happen on our side because there will be collaborative effort between high performing students and low performing students. On the side of government, we tell you why it is mutually exclusive. On the side of government, they fail to understand this because they want high class students just hang out or learn with other high class students at the very end of the day. Low class students will be neglected and lower class students will fail to get their education at the very end of the day. We tell you that this is a very harmful cycle because low class students will then have a low wages or low education level jobs, which then will create their children will also have low education. Thus, this form of cycle will not be broken under their side. They want low class people or low class students or low performing students will stay in that cycle forever. But on our side, we help them break out of the cycle, those harmful cycle that we want to break. On the side of opposition, they neglect those form of cycles at the very end of the day. And so on the other side, they told you on how students create their own gap. This is not the policy's fault or this is not anybody else's fault. It's the students that created this own gap of high class students and low class students, right? We tell you that sure, even if it's the students' fault that the gap is made, you shouldn't exacerbate the harms of helping segregating low class and high class students at the very end of the day. You should be helping them collaborate with each other. You should be helping them help out each other for them to actually learn at the very end of the day. This form of quality education could only happen on our side. On the other side, they fail to acknowledge the needs of low class students. They fail to acknowledge the idea of high class students being pressured at the very end, at the very first place to begin with. My second speaker have already told you on how high class students will feel pressured and low class students will be neglected at the very end of the day. So it's a lose-lose situation on the side of government. And on our side, it's a very much win-win situation if you combine and if there will be a collaborative effort, and there will definitely be a collaborative effort. Thus, to conclude, I would say the side of opposition is very elitist and very conservative. On our side, we take on a new approach, which will happen and is very effective at the very end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mufid Ilham. Next, I would like to invite the third speaker from the opposition team, Samuel Nulai Anaksawa, to present his speech.
Reading is not walking on words, it is grasping the soul of them. So that is a quote by Paulo Freire, the writer for the Pedagogy of the Oppressed. A very good evening I bid to the honorable educators, accurate timekeeper, my worthy side of government, loyal teammates and my worthy side of opposition, loyal teammates and members of this noble house. Standing here as the third speaker of the opposition team, I am proud to oppose this motion. We, as the side of the opposition, do not believe that academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to firstly rebut the government's points today and prove to you how academic tracking in primary and secondary school shouldn't be abolished. Firstly, the government has mentioned about how teachers, basically almost all of the speakers mentioned on how teachers will be neglecting students, but no. On the side of the opposition today, our idea is not the fact that we are going to neglect our students. We are simply trying to stream them into suitable classes where it will cater to them. Like my second speaker has already mentioned, it will create a better personalized education for each student. So he has also mentioned about how if you are better at maths, you join a good maths class. If you are bad at English, then you join an English class that caters to you, to your capabilities. We are not, for example, the first and second speaker has mentioned about how we are denying the right of education to them. No, we are simply saying that if you are good at something, you should be here because it will cater to you. And by that, it will promote critical thinking because it denied. So by being streamed to a class that it caters to them, it promotes even more critical thinking because it allows, it gives them space to do more. So to continue, members of the floor.
Before that, sir.
Denied, sorry. So my first speaker has mentioned about protecting children of higher ability from the possibility of being helped by the lower ability. So in a study done by Tom Lovelace, a Brookings researcher, he decided to track students within students who are AP advanced placement students, basically in the America, it's an American exam. So in this study, he decided to do tracking on students. So in this particular study, he decided to do on minorities because in the US, minorities are basically, they don't hold the same standards when it comes to the majority, basically white people. So in this study, he decided to track Black and Hispanic people. And when they did academic tracking, he found out that their AP results were significantly better compared to those Black and Hispanics who didn't join the academic tracking. So in a way, our side of opposition today, in a sense, we are closing the gap between those who are more privileged and less privileged, which goes against what you said earlier, by being elitist. So in the long run, it will benefit minorities, and also like what my continuing on, my first speaker has also mentioned about creating an environment for those who are, uh, let's say, have a higher ability. So those in gifted classrooms, they'll be able to support each other to be more hardworking, and also they'll be able to get more A's in a sense, I guess. So more examples of academic tracking. So academic tracking is actually a very prevalent thing in a lot of developed nations. We can see it in Netherlands. We can see it in Singapore as well, where in Singapore, if you are tracked into the express track, usually you will graduate school a year earlier than those who are in the normal track. Does this create stigma over there? No, not really, because it gives a chance to those who are better at education to go and propel themselves forward. Meanwhile, those who are in the normal track, where they are considered not as the same as those in the higher tier track, they are still given the same opportunities of education. It's just that they are given more time to digest, to learn, to basically do more in the education. Secondly, some speakers, to conclude, the side of the opposition today opposes this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel Nulai. Now we are into the final phase of the competition. May I call upon the fourth speaker of the government, Nur Farah Ain binti Abdul Razak, to deliver her reply speech.
Yes.
We can't,
We can't hear
we can't
you.
hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
No voice.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh my God. So, is it? Can you hear me really? Oh, so, on the side of government, we really believe that academic tracking in primary and secondary school should be abolished because as our on the side of government first speaker said that students will be divided, and this tracking system will divide students into a group by their academic ability, which is this educational system may cause those students to self-label themselves as inferior to upper track students. And we should and I also we also believe that this academic tracking system should be abolished as the on the side of opposition said that this academic tracking should not be abolished because low tier student will be overshadowed. Actually, no. Uh, this academic tracking system should be abolished because if we abolish this academic tracking system, then a high performing student and a low performing student can help each other out. For example, like a high performing students can help lower performing students, or you can say that the low class students to improve their study. You can imagine that if you say that this academic tracking is um, efficient, it means that you put a low class student in one class, then how can they improve their education? So instead of that, I think that this academic tracking system should be abolished. And then this academic tracking system should be abolished because students has to have the right in education to choose what they want to learn, to choose what they are what they really want to learn to. And then having a gap in society should not be tolerated, especially between students, as it will affect the mental health of the students, especially nowadays. Even though you said that there will be counselors, there will be psychiatrists or whatsoever, but most of students nowadays doesn't even have the courage to come out to tell them what are they feeling. So I think that this academic tracking system should be abolished, as it is it it's like you are having a gap in society. And then what did I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nurul Farah Ain. Last but not least, let's invite the fourth speaker from the opposition team, Muhammad Zul Izan bin Jainuddin, to present his reply speech.
First of all, good evening. I bid to the ladies and gentlemen and the member of the floor. We as a opposition, opposition gladly state that we disagree the academic tracking in the primary and secondary school should be abolished. This is what my first speaker said, that by having academic tracking, children of higher ability from the possibility of being held back by this of lower ability. This because not all people born with the same study ability. So by having this academic tracking, the teacher would set the right method for each student so that every student could understand the academic journaling account. Besides that, by having academic tracking, it will be reduced the it would be less overshadow towards higher student and the lower student. This because some of them might not get the spirit, as they will feel down and depressed, as they can't be like the higher students.
On that point, sir. On that point.
What does this mean?
Wouldn't on the overshadowing point, wouldn't students in the high class still overshadow students in the lower class?
The mean that I said about the overshadow means that if the academic tracking is abolished, it will lead students become overshadowed because they have been in the same class. I continue with my points. So as what my second speaker said, that by having school academic tracking, it will eliminate the probability that advanced student will I'm sorry. It will create a better suite personalized education for each student. This because the student will receive information and instruction that specified for their level of ability. As I mentioned before, this could prevent them from being left behind and down. Besides, they could encourage themselves for study and get what and they learn. Besides that, by having this academic tracking, this encourages slower students to participate since they will not bored in the class and overshadowed by the highest student. This because the material and the method that been used by the teachers will switch them so them could achieve on what the objective of the learning session. So the student will encourage more and more to study and will try their best to get a good result in their examination. Besides that, by having academic tracking also, it could eliminate the probability that the advanced student will experience boredom, as if the academic tracking is abolished, they will be in the same class. So the advanced student might feel bored as the teacher will focus to teach them and answer the question asked by the low students. If they say the teacher will by having this academic tracking, the teacher will focus on the higher class as they give more works on the higher class. This is absolutely no, because the teacher give the more works to the higher class because it suits with them. While for the lower class, it should be less so that they could learn and study slowly.
Your eye, please.
No rejected, sorry.
Okay.
Plus, we, we can't assume the higher student will encourage lower student to learn with them and be like them too, because this they might think about themselves and focus on what they need study as they want to get to achieve higher and
Excuse
higher.
me.
No deny.
Last point.
No deny. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad Zul Izan. With that, all the speakers from both government and opposition team have delivered their speeches. Kudos everyone. The result will be announced on next week. Please stay alert to any announcement by Generic 4 Krisihe on official social media. And that's the end of our debate session. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye bye
You may leave
guys.
now.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a
Bye,
good
Bye,
day.
all.
y'all.
Bye. Can
No
I hear
hard
the bell one more
feelings.
time?
No hard feelings.
I mean, aku nak tanya macam, if it's so detrimental and if it's so like harmful to